Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and this is Anti-Media Radio. You're listening to us live on ucy.tv/TAMR. It is December the 29th. It is our last episode of the year. We will be off on Thursday. So far, in 2015, there have been 1,192 people killed by police officers. 1,192 dead, gone. Of course, not every single one of those situations was, something that could have probably been prevented. But we've got Tamir Rice in the news, which we're going to talk at length about tonight. Just terrible situation, terrible year. Our thoughts go out to the 1,192 people that lost their lives this year to police officers. Also, the reverse of that, 129 police officers passed away in the line of duty so far, which we've got just a couple of days here left in 2015. City of Chicago, with their strict gun laws, 2,978 people have been shot, 498 homicides. So we're looking at what could potentially be 500 homicides in the city of Chicago this year, and 153 beheadings by the United States' wonderful, great ally, Saudi Arabia. I want to bring in to the studio with us to recap the year and look forward to the year ahead. Our wonderful producer, Mr. Shannon Madden. Shannon, how's it going?
Absolutely wonderful, Mr. Gibson. Happy holidays to you.
You as well, sir. And I want to bring in Mr. Kevin Knight as well. Kevin, how are you?
Mr. Gibson, doing great, man. Good to be here with you guys. Looking forward to the show, man. It seems like it's going to be a good one, and looking forward to ringing the new year in.
Last one of the year.
Last one.
And one of the year's been.
And there's a lot that's happened this year. I guess let's start talking about the story right now. Tamir Rice. I don't even know what to say. How do you excuse this goofball cop killing a 12-year-old child?
Well, and goofball cop, and the reason you say that, we were having a discussion off air before the show about this. Usually when we sit down and we prep a show, we'll pull up various different news stories from different sources. Kind of dig around a little bit, look at different angles, look at different perspectives, eyes on the ground, this, that, and the other. And one of the things that really struck us is that the idiocy and the lunacy the police's actions in this whole exchange. Even as they exonerated the police officers from any criminal activity, I believe the phrase was it was a perfect storm of just complete, just an absolute just meltdown of error from dispatch, error from the officers that actually arrived on the scene, and of course the two officers that shot Tamir Rice.
How is that going to bring back that mother's child?
That's sad. That is, I mean,
how? Oops! What a blunder!
And I don't know if you've seen the same video that I've seen. The one video that I've seen has about 14 minutes of footage on it, and like 10 minutes are edited out because it just shows him just goofing around, just being a kid playing in a park, like kids do. I don't really see anybody around him, which is really odd that that there was even a call made to begin with. That could be for another show, I'm sure. I don't understand it. It's, if you watch the video, it's just a kid playing in the park, just goofing around like I did when I was 12 years old.
That's it.
The same exact thing, playing around with a toy gun. And, not really aiming. And from what I've seen of the footage, I don't see him aiming it at anybody. I don't see him threatening anybody or attempting to rob anybody with it. It's just a kid playing with a toy. Now, tactically, I've never seen police officers, and unfortunately, doing the show, we have to see a lot of footage and watch a lot of footage of exchanges.
It's been way too many this year.
Between citizens, most of the time unarmed citizens and the police. One thing I've never seen before, I've never seen the police actually pull up to somebody that they suspect has a gun, to pull directly up to them and jump out of the car, just mere feet away from them. I've never seen that before. Usually when the police and anybody that's listening to this law enforcement, I'm sure that there is, can always call in and kind of clarify, but I've never quite understood, or I've never witnessed the police pulling up to a scene like that and getting out of their car at a safe distance, gun drawn, behind their door, on the loudspeaker, you need to drop your gun right now, we're going to shoot you, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. Some sort of advance warning, some sort of, hey, this is a serious situation, you're fixing to get shot right now, last chance. The narrative has been that the police erred on the side of caution. And we've heard that so many times. Well, thankfully, the police reacted the way that they did.
Right.
Or somebody could have gotten hurt.
Somebody could have gotten hurt if that was a real gun.
Right.
If that was a real gun.
Obscene.
Well, hell, if I had 3 magical unicorns at home, I'd be loaded and I wouldn't be sitting here hanging out with you cats right now.
That's it.
It's funny, Chief Tomba, who I guess is the police chief over the local law enforcement, the district there, he's actually quoted as saying that the kid, apparently the child did not threaten the officer verbally or physically with the gun.
He didn't have time.
Right, of course,
time
right.
whatsoever.
But we know that. But that's an admission from at least from the police chief that should throw, should make the verdict or the decision not to indict or to acquit. That should be obvious right there. That hey, we've got a disconnect even between what the police chief is saying and the fact that they would let this gentleman off. There's obviously, I don't know if you guys saw, but this guy had a record at the previous place of employment. He was not fit for his job, and that's something I keep seeing this on how many different cases that we've seen that have gotten to this point where a life has been lost, a family destroyed, only to find out that this person, this cop, this police officer, has got a record at a different place, at a different municipality for some outrageous incident. This is not, unfortunately, this is not an isolated event. No.
It's like the blood follows them from one job to the next.
It does. And, if this was an employee, if it were I or you out trying to get another job, and you so much as, took a company car home when you weren't supposed to, or had a miscommunication to some degree, or even, a misunderstanding between employees, can lead to you not being rehired or blacklisted. And you would think, of all places, with the supposed integrity that the law enforcement
Think about it
has.
like this. Think about it. Okay, let's say I worked at Walmart and I see somebody I think is about to steal something from a lady's purse.
Club them.
Yeah, I just go run them over. Run them over.
Or choke them out, or worse yet, pull a 22 from your back pocket and shoot them.
Okay, do you think I get fired from my job? And if I do you think I'm going to get another job very quickly?
And better yet,
Certainly not the same employer.
Don't think for a second.
Certainly not doing much.
Especially when it's found out that the person reaching into that person's purse, that lady's purse, happened to be her husband, who was reaching for his cell phone or his wallet or even for her wallet.
That's it.
You know, then next thing you know, not only are you facing the losing your job and never being able to work it anywhere else again, or at least you being able to use Walmart as a reference, but you're also going to face criminal charges for assault because you assaulted somebody. Now, that might be smoothed over when the lawsuit comes around, and if you just want to go ahead and pay the settlement, we can just go ahead and drop all charges. That's how we have to deal with things because we don't have a badge.
Mm-hmm.
We're not given a license to kill anybody at any given point in time and then make a story up about it afterwards.
I don't understand how there's anyone left excusing this behavior. How are people seeing
I'm
this?
glad you said that, too, because that also, this is actually a plea. This isn't, and again, we have to say this, and we always have to include this. We are not anti-police at all. I've had some very positive interactions with the police. I've had police help me out on quite a few occasions. I've had them do the job that my taxpayer dollars.
And I've had negative experiences, too.
Absolutely.
It's people. It's like
I've dealt with
everything.
corrupt cops. And that's, again, another.
But it's funny that I've got law enforcement friends and family. I think all of us probably do it. A lot of people can say that. But it's funny that the stories that I have heard, the worst stories about law enforcement officers have come when other law enforcement officers are at their most candid and they're being honest. It comes from them. It's where I hear the stories that you do hear that you don't see in the media.
But here's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what's happening because this isn't like some renegade cop. We're talking about this is an internal problem because cops are killing and the justice system is saying it's okay. It's okay.
Well, from the bottom up, too, because, now we have the Justice Department.
It's not okay.
The Justice Department is involved in all of this now, too. And we've seen a big collective yawn from the White House from all of this. I mean, again, and a lot of these cases, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, these were people of color. And we now have a president of color. I mean, if anybody, wants to think that once you get into the White House, you're supposed to bring your people up, take care of your people, and this, that, and the other. I don't think that's the case, is it? It's business as usual. And it goes, and it starts, this is when we start down the ugly rabbit hole of why police are allowed to do this in the first place.
Because they get away with it.
And why do they get away with it? And that's when we start getting into the nasty conversation.
You're right, but that's not always the case. I mean, look at Derek Cruz this year in March.
If you train your dog to kill somebody, and
it's definitely more predominant.
And your dog kills somebody, are you going to sit and shake your finger at your dog? Now, if he kills the wrong person, well, he's not a bad dog. He just didn't know which person to kill. Come here, boy. People
that don't have money to defend themselves against a corrupt justice system are going to have the boot come down on top of their head. The people that do get away with it. It's that simple. Because do you think for 1 second that if it's some super rich kid and gets shot, there's not going to be consequences? I don't care if the kid is black. If the kid's rich and gets killed, it's going to be a big deal.
Now, if he's black, it won't be as big a deal. You understand.
And if he's rich and he just hits a family of 4 and he's drunk and driving, he may just be let off with the excuse of influenza.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Right, but that's That's an isolated event. You know what gets me out of all this? We're all talking about what facts of this case that we've seen, and we've not seen much more than what everybody else has seen. But what gets me is that there are 12 people that listened to all the testimony that we don't have access to and came to this decision. The grand jury heard all this information, and they came to this decision. I would love to be a fly on the wall to listen to see exactly how that occurred.
Oh, the same thing happened with OJ, too.
Right.
Who knows what these people do? Who knows how these people are influenced, if they're influenced or if they're just that brainwashed?
OJ didn't do it. He hired somebody to do it.
Oh, my gosh, I'm not getting into that. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our wonderful, fantastic writer, Miss Claire Burnish. Claire, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Can't complain.
Hey, Miss Claire, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah. We're weathering the weather.
That's
That's what we
it.
do here in the South.
Howdy, Miss Claire.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great.
Okay, are you ready to recap the year with us? Your highs and lows, your best, your worst.
Oh, where to even begin with that?
Yeah, I don't know either. We've had a lot of huge stories go on this year. We just got done talking about Tamir Rice. We've seen San Bernardino. We've seen Paris attacked twice this year. The list goes on and on with people that have been shot by cops. We've seen the Charleston shooting. Chattanooga.
Freddie Gray.
That's it. I mean...
It's insane, actually, if you really look back on the year and think about not only what's happened, but if you can pick a category, and it seems like there's been so much that's happened. You know, police brutality, police killings, government corruption, and just strange relations. You have, you know, ISIS, and it's off the wall. It's crazy this year.
It really is, and I forgot how much of this stuff happened just this year. It seems like it's been this long, old history, you know, and stuff we've been talking about forever, but it's stuff that's happened just in 2015. Thinking back at the Charlie Hebdo shootings, I was like, oh, no, that was a year or two ago. Nope. Like, there's been so much go on. And think of what we've seen, just the rise of ISIS this year and the fear-mongering, and especially, you know, the heated talk about Syria. I think the presidential elections have had a lot to do to influence that. The presidential elections, geez, Louise.
You know, an interesting thing, actually, is my first article, which was back in March, was about how ISIS was first starting to take over I think Al-Qaeda is the biggest threat in the Middle East, and that was March. It seems like it's been years.
It really does, and, you know, they've been funding them for years, but it's only really just become a story, huge story this year. What do you predict, what do you think the big story is going to be for 2016, Claire?
That is a really good question, and I've been trying to kind of feel that out, and I've been wondering.
Obviously, the no-brainer is the election.
Well, yeah, of course, but I don't know. I'm done with the whole presidential process and the election.
Oh, come now. 2016 is the year that idiocracy finally comes true, and I think that's something we can all rejoice.
Electrolytes.
It's coming regardless, so we don't have to rush it now.
It's got.
Well, you know, there is the one good thing is if that bill in California passes, where the politicians would have to wear their sponsors on their sleeve, literally. You know, that would be a great and wonderful thing for all of politics.
It would be hilarious.
And you know, and even if it doesn't, and you know how many people now have been exposed to just that idea? You know, I used to hear this as a joke. A local talk show host in here would always joke about that, and everybody, every now and then you hear a caller call in and they'd give the same suggestion like it was new to, you know, that they had just stumbled upon this new profound idea. But now that this has happened in California, I've heard more people actually share information about this online than I ever even thought were interested in politics. And so, yeah, you know, even if this doesn't go anywhere, like a lot of bills do,
Well,
This
that would
isn't
be
going to be the
awesome.
last. It's not going to be the last time we see this bill pop up. I guarantee you.
It's going to be awesome when Trump pops out in a T-shirt with Trump's face on it.
Or just nothing but Trump.
California, both fingers up. I mean, seriously, it's going to be a good time, y'all. Y'all hang on to your hats. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, the train wreck is coming down on top of us.
I think one of the best parts about that is watching the politicians squirm and try to make excuses for why they don't want it to happen. You know, because if they really want to be transparent and they really didn't have a problem with the money they were accepting, then they wouldn't have a problem wearing those corporations on their sleeves. But, you know, they're all squirming and saying, you know, it's a circus and this, that, and the other thing. Well, obviously, they just don't want us to know.
Well, I think that's the obvious statement of the night, and we know they'll find some way to weasel the way out of it.
Well, here's the sad part about it, though, is that people are so misinformed. You can go get this information quite easily. The top donors of all the
sure you
candidates,
can.
every single last candidate, all the way down to the mayor. You know, just people. It's people are oblivious to the whole process of it, and that would make even more people aware. And we don't want anybody to be aware now, do we?
Okay, so Claire, you were saying earlier, moving towards 2016, outside of the elections, where do you think the big story is going to be?
I think that it will be interesting to see what happens in the Middle East, particularly with, well, obviously with the Islamic State, but I was thinking particularly with Turkey, because Turkey seems to be playing just about every side of this multifaceted coin that they can find. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's going to be key to whether there's going to be an enormous war or not.
I think you're right. I think Syria.
Thing, but
I think Syria, Turkey. I think there's more eyes on Saudi Arabia right now than there have been in the past.
Yes.
Whether anything comes of that or not, who knows? I could foresee something happening with Turkey before something would happen with Saudi Arabia.
Oh, absolutely.
Saudi Arabia just posted a big-time deficit, it was either deficit or debt, I forget which, of course, they're two different things, but they're getting really hit by the price of oil crashing, so there's no telling what we may see or not see about coming out of Saudi Arabia, knowing how the media has a tendency not only to not focus much on Saudi Arabia, at least here, but I'm sure the kingdom probably doesn't want to let a lot of stuff out that they otherwise might be exposed to. I'm sure stuff is a little more volatile in there than what they really care to admit.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some struggle and a possible regime change in Saudi Arabia this year. I think the family is in some turmoil, and there's some inner conflict going on.
Well, you can see that just with their they're cracking down on Twitter and alternative media or journalists in general.
I agree with you about Saudi Arabia. I think there might be a big shake-up there, and I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I think that it might even be kind of a byproduct of what else is going on, like with Syria and everything, and I think that it will happen. There's too much corruption. There's too many just stories of atrocities and human rights abuses, and I think people are just finally fed up, and I think there's too much backlash for that whole family to stay in the position they're in.
That's it, and I think, Yemen, that's still going on, and I don't think the United States is wanting them to get out of Yemen anytime soon, and so they may, do their part to keep the current regime in power too.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think also there seems to be some, in various places in Africa, like the entire continent is usually ignored by Western media, and I believe that things seem to be heating up there, and we might see news more often from, this sounds terrible, but the continent of Africa in general. There are a bunch of different hotspots there already, so I think that's going to be something that we'll hear a lot about coming up.
I think you're right. AFRICOM's there, and AFRICOM's been kind of cementing some of their various strongholds a little bit even further, trying to supposedly to counter some of China's influence in the area. But I think there's probably some ulterior motives there. But no doubt things are heating up, and especially with ISIS trying to make more strongholds with Boko Haram and cement some of their ties. with some of the radical Islamists, which of course gives even more of a reason or excuse for the U.S. to meddle and do what they do.
And we've gone this far in this conversation, and nobody's brought up Russia.
I was actually about to mention that Russia says that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are now forming a strategic agreement to some. I guess, Claire, you know something about that?
I was thinking. I mean, Russia seems to be. He's a cool character, right? And he seems to have a good head on his shoulders with how generally he treats his populace. Although obviously there's a lot of abuse there, but arguably there is in this country too. So. I just think that Russia is kind of hanging back and being strategic, but they are going to be a key player in what happens in the whole Syria-Turkey, conflict and ISIS, and I don't know. I mean,
they undeniably will. Or I just, I think it's kind of like you said, Claire. They're basically at a chessboard right now, and I think Putin's the strongest player at the table. I think the election's going to do a lot to mix it up. I just think the propaganda swirling around, coming out of these politicians.
Putin loves Trump. Absolutely.
It's going to stir this junk up.
And that's where he's put his money.
And you're getting it from both sides. You're getting it from Hillary Clinton as much as you're getting it from Marco Rubio, if not more. So it's not so much even about the election. It's about how these ideas are being promoted freely. It's not like they're hidden on MSNBC. We're talking the presidential election, and everybody's hearing it. Bomb, bomb, bomb. We got to do this. Regime change, regime change. And when people aren't really paying attention to what's going on, they're just catching bits and pieces of this, and it subconsciously goes, yeah, I know. I heard something about them being bad over there. We should probably do something about that.
Turn them to glass.
It goes back to us, bombing the city from Aladdin or whatever.
Right. Oh.
Basically, the U.S. government takes advantage of, the kind of uninformed populace whole xenophobia in order to promote its whole kind of resource-grabbing hegemony across the world.
That's how this country works now. I mean, I really believe that's how Obama got elected. It was this, I don't really know what he thinks, but he's cool. He's young. He's got this young kid. He's got this, young wife. This is going to be hip. We're going to have our first black president. So I'm voting for this guy, period. That's what I'm doing.
You know what the ultimate irony is?
And I think the same idea is you're getting that, but he's this, he's got this swagger.
He's an outsider. And that's we heard that.
It's so low information. You're basing you're picking the person to run this country on like nothing, on celebrity Kardashian culture.
Well, how many people at the same time will bash the same people that you're talking about that are so willing to bomb Aladdin, his home country, God rest his soul. I love that movie. Actually, I remember it. That was a good flick. I hated to, and I actually thought I was reading an Onion title when I read that so many people were willing to bomb that area. But how many people would agree with that? The warmongers, but they would turn around, and these are the same people on many cases that will turn around and cuss Obama out of both sides of their mouth, and will talk about how Obama supposedly treats the U.S. citizens. Not that I disagree with him, but they would have the that a president would inflict pain on his citizens, but not do so on other countries outside the U.S. That's a complete contradiction that they fail to see, that they'll cheer on the Obama administration's foreign endeavors and cuss their national and their endeavors at home.
Quick question, guys. How many wars are we involved in right now?
Black wars, confirmed wars. I guess it depends on really.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
We are
all over the place. How many wars is Russia involved in?
Well, since we no longer officially declare war,
yeah.
I mean,
how do you define that at this point? Obama's bombed 8 countries since he's been in office. Nobel Peace Prize winner, of course.
One for every year.
That's it.
Yeah.
I do think we would be kind of maybe
Nick Saban had even
full-scale peacekeeping mission. Yeah,
I do think we might be a little bit misinformed if we were to go as far as to think that Putin was that because we're not seeing it much that Russia is not also spreading their influence from in ways that we would all probably argue are unjust. They may not be doing near as much damage and have the influence that the U.S. does. I have a friend of mine who's active in the Libertarian Party also.
Hey, never did I sit here.
Oh, no, I agree. I don't.
Never did
No, I agree with you there. I agree with you there.
I mean, you want to compare apples and apples. I mean, where it's not. It's apples and oranges.
No, but a lot of conservatives, and I don't.
Putin's better at playing the propaganda game.
He's doing a great job.
That's what it is.
And he's doing a great job.
You know what I think is the saddest part is people who are upset with Obama for bombing all these countries, constantly and starting all these quote-unquote wars around the world will just accept all of these same wars that are obviously going to continue after he's gone in office with whoever it is that comes in next. If they're a different party, they're going to say, oh, well, it's okay now because this was my candidate.
Oh, yeah, I agree, 100%.
That's what's scary. Okay with death as long as their team won the big game.
It really is. It kind of plays out almost like a football game. Our team versus their team.
Bragging
Nobody actually puts any thought, or the average American, most of your little flag wavers, God bless America, support our troops, no matter where our troops happen to be. They fail to realize that they're human lives, people. Actual living, breathing people that feel, they go shopping like you do, they go to school, they go to their churches or places of worship, they go vote if they're able to vote, they go to their friend's house for a meal. I mean, they go through the same exact life cycle that we do. How are we any better or
their
worse?
Their numbers on the screen, Shannon. Their numbers on the screen.
That's exactly right.
When you live in a country that can see pictures of a 12-year-old child, you see video of this kid getting shot and killed for having a BB gun down by his side. A car pulls up, a man gets out unprovoked, pulls a gun out and kills him. And people excuse that because of the clothes he was wearing, the job that he had, and the badge on his chest. When you have people that can excuse murdering a 12-year-old child in broad daylight, what do you think they're going to think when there's just some numbers on the screen and those scary Muslims? Oh, there's the scary Muslims. They don't give two craps who gets killed. They'll justify it. They'll excuse it. And it's a sick, brainwashed culture that does it.
And particularly if that person...
Well, that just sums it up.
Is a darker shade of white. Oh, there's that too.
That's my biggest battle this year. I think that I ended the year on kind of a down note because this refugee crisis, and it isn't just involving Syrian refugees. There's a refugee crisis worldwide, and the biggest problem I run into with people is trying to have them understand that these are human beings and that they aren't coming to take jobs from people. They aren't coming here because they want to take over our country or they, whatever. These people have no choice. They have to leave because their lives are endangered and they have nowhere to live. And we're talking kids and, women and children and elderly, and people are like, well, why do they get on a raft? And this raft is flimsy. Why would they get on the water? That's so stupid. It's like, do you think that they have a choice? Would they really choose to put their families' lives at risk like that if they had any other choice? It's just ridiculous.
And who's coming to take over this country, by the way? What are they going to take over? All our debt? Like, what are they coming to take over? Like, what's happening? Are they going to go, set up shop in the White House? Like, what do people think?
I would prefer an illegal immigrant over what we have for the crowd of candidates that we have for president. Illegal immigrant sounds pretty good to me right about now.
Man.
I agree.
Yeah.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as far as the president. Not with the people that are running. Not with the people that are running. Same old same. We're going to have Bush 4.0 in office.
Nah, he's done. Poor Jeb. I kind of feel sorry for him. That was my pony, man.
Yeah, in memoriam Rick Perry from getting out of the race. Man, that was the best drunk going right there.
No, that's the best drunk going that's Trump, and he's drunk on power, baby.
So
feeling it.
I'm just upset. Steve Nuts seems to be gone.
I know he's not in the polls like he needs to be.
Steve Nuts will always make a Bet your ass on that.
He's not, so hadn't graduated yet, so he still had class. I don't think he could tear away from classes and all.
So what's your perception, Claire, on the whole Hillary Clinton thing? Are they going to push her through, or are they going to push her back?
That old hag.
Oh, I don't know. I try to ignore Hillary as much as possible because she's just a war hawk, and the whole, the past history of the Clinton family is just not a pretty picture, and people just don't look into the history of what they've done in the past and the scandals they've been involved in and everything else, and they don't pay attention to how pro-war she is. She's a party candidate, of course.
But she's like Trump. You can ask people what she believes in, and they don't know because her positions change so many times.
Yeah, she'll believe whatever you want her.
Yeah, she'll say whatever you want her to say.
Just get me in office, and we'll work it out.
I don't think she ain't.
Like I said, perfect candidate. She's the Plato candidate, so.
But she's got Bill behind her, and that's more of an asset these days than a liability. With the buffoons that have been stumbling around, at least he can, get up there and get everybody to like him.
Bill has no choice but to be behind her. She'll kill him at this point. I mean, really, she'll have him killed.
She's pretty rude.
If you just sit back and look at the picture in the field of candidates and the platforms, it's rather astonishing that we've reached this point.
It truly is idiocracy. I don't know how we got here. We got here.
Desperation. People were desperate, and it's a fine mix of desperation, ignorance.
Because
is this the result of always choosing the lesser of two evils? Do you just eventually reach the absolute?
I do think a lot of this is technology infused. We had Roosevelt in office for what? 4 terms? 3. The ruling class used to rule, and now we're going to ship out some idiot PR person that's going to say some crazy stuff, and we're going to do it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Because America.
And we're just going to make it a circus. We're going to have a reality star become president, and you're going to love it. And he's going to talk about building walls, and you're going to eat it up.
He's a great businessman.
Oh, my God.
Did you know George Soros was a great businessman also? It's funny.
So is Larry Flint.
There's plenty of people are, but conservatives. That's one of the first things I hear out of their mouth. Other than he says what I'm thinking, the next thing I hear is.
I mean, when people vote for Hitler today and go, well, he certainly knew how to build an economy.
Right. He certainly got the economy moving again.
Yeah,
people are glad to go to work.
But he's saying, and again, I can't stress this enough because it just kind of creeps me out. That everybody says the same thing when I talk to them about Trump, and they kind of they look both ways real quick, and they kind of look me in the eye and say, "Well, he is saying the things that people want to hear." Who are these people?
And ask them what it is they want to hear.
I wish Mercutio were here right now. That he could tell you about some of those people.
Yeah,
face to face.
That happened this year too.
Yeah, it did.
Who's that?
Mercutio, the Mercutio Southall. We did the interview.
With for those who don't remember, Mercutio was the Black Lives Matter protester at the Donald Trump rally here in Birmingham that got jumped / hauled out / beat up and kicked. Still don't really know why.
I hung out with him a few days ago, and apparently he has started a criminal proceedings against the people who attacked him. Don't know if that's going to come to any kind of fruition.
It's not.
Yeah, the Birmingham police. Mercutio.
We stood there and watched.
No love for one another. No love. Yeah, they did it on camera. Sat there and watched it. Lieutenant Adams.
That was so disgusting. I mean, can we just that was just so disgusting. I mean, these people are supposed to be adults, and they are at a rally, and they just attack another individual, and somehow this is acceptable.
Well, first off they slapped the camera out of his friend's hand, Carlos, and as Mercutio came over to defend his friend, that's when the verbal altercation happened, and then he was attacked. Yes.
Do you get the absurdity of the conversation we're having right now?
Yeah, that's kind of that was kind of my point.
Yeah, like break this down. This is what world we're living in now. We're talking about when Donald Trump came to Birmingham, Alabama because he's running for president and winning. A man goes to a rally, gets beat up, and hauled out by the police. And nobody, it's not a big deal. Who cares? This is great.
You know what? I have to bring this up. I'm reading a book by Chris Hedges that was published back in 2009 called Empire of Illusion, The End of Literacy and Triumph of Spectacle. And it speaks a lot to what's going on now, even back then. It's speaking to how kind of reality TV and this whole, me, myself, and I culture where everybody needs to be in the spotlight and things have become like so distorted and twisted that that's how culture is going, and it's become acceptable. And it's like the end of, basically manners and knowledge and the quest for the better good and the triumph of the individual. And this is like a result of that. All this absurdity, this madness, that's what this looks like, in my opinion.
Am I the only person that took the whole president thing kind of seriously? Like, I kind of believe we could be at a place in 4 years.
I would not be surprised.
I hate Kanye West, and I would vote for him in a heartbeat.
See, that's the thing.
For Donald Trump.
That's the thing.
The lesser.
We could be at a point in 4 years that we're just voting for some guy that
MTV presents the 2020 presidential election with your host Carson Daly. Yeah, watch that.
That's what we're turning into. If Trump wins, that's where we're at.
Have a round of debates and then have Britney Spears perform a song in the middle of it. And is she still around? What happened to Britney Spears?
Why don't we have Simon Cowell come out and do the debates?
I'd vote for him now. He's a limey, though. Gotta watch it.
You know what's really scary is that I can actually picture that in my head. I can see that happening in the next, 4, 10, 15 years.
Oh, you can go and turn on the TV. I mean, that's exactly
we're not that far from it.
No, we're there. Donald Trump, what was the last significant thing he did? What, The Apprentice?
Think about what the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Fired. That's what's up, man.
When do people look in the mirror and go, I don't think this is working anymore? Like, when does the people have this realization that, like, something has gone off the rails?
Well,
they have, but they're just like, hey, hell, it's already gone off. Look, just maybe it'll go further because that's what they're doing with Trump. We're going to make sure this joker sinks to the bottom.
Boone likes it.
I had somebody made a good comment on a post the other day, and I think that kind of sums up the situation right now. He said, "Is anybody driving the ship of fools?"
That's it. And we're so run by corporate America to such a. I think people really realize it. Claire, I know you've done a bunch of driving from one end of the country to the other recently. I've just recently been driving during the holidays, doing some traveling. Every town you go to, they've got the exact same corporate mini malls, bigger malls, same store. Like, all these towns look the same except for a landmark here and a landmark there. All these towns are identical to each other. You eat the same food, you buy the same clothes, everything's the same. We've been taken over by corporate America. It's like it's happened. It's not kind of happened. When people in Seattle, Washington shop at the same grocery store as the people in Miami, Florida, it's over. Whole Foods, over. Corporate America.
California used to be 10 years ahead of us on the anymore.
No. I don't at all think that. I think people, go across the country just like that. And sadly, the information that's being relayed across the country
across the world.
Across the world.
Across the galaxy.
And we're not getting, this isn't working out in our favor like it should be. Yes, I think there's people out there that know more. I think there's people that can go out there and research this stuff and people that can find out what's really going on. But in the mass culture, what's going from one end of the world to the next is what's just happened to Lamar Odom today. Not who's funding ISIS.
That was a tragic story.
Something else happened?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at what happened in that story versus Lemmy. And I'm sorry, Lemmy blows that story out of the water.
Okay, I'll let you say something
Thank
about
you,
Lemmy.
finally. Gosh. Lemmy from Motorhead passed away. Had some very aggressive form of cancer. He was Lemmy from Motorhead. This one's for you.
Ace of Spades.
No.
You about to sing a song?
No,
I thought you were going to do
I was waiting for some karaoke person.
I thought you were going to hit a few notes.
No. I will when Tom Jones passes away. I will do a few verses of it. It's not unusual.
So who really thinks we could be in World War III within 12 months to today?
I do.
I think we could always be there. But supposedly, the U.S. just said that they were more eager to start working with Russia. And if we are to believe, at least to some extent, that they decided against continuing their policy of regime change, maybe we're going to see a little bit, I'd like to say, at least a little bit of cooling of the jet, so to speak. I'm hopeful.
Well, and again, if Trump's president and him and Putin are already buddies, they're communicating on Facebook and
right,
planning a putt-putt.
Riding a horse.
I don't know. I'm with you, Claire. I think it could kick off. I think all the pieces are in place. It's just going to take the one wrong move because, like you're talking about, Shane, well, Putin and Trump are buddies and, you talking, Kevin, maybe things are getting better. All it's going to take is one wrong missile hitting the wrong thing.
Well, let me ask you.
It could even be the wrong sentence at this point, the way that everything's so just on edge.
Well, I've got to ask the question, though. In 2015, going on 2016, what does World War III look like?
It may be already been fought right now, as far as we know. If it starts with a cyber war, like I imagine a lot of wars do, preemptively, the war, before the action starts, there's always some underground stuff going on.
Because World War I and World War II were very different. They were ground wars, and there were actual, boots on the ground. The way warfare happens in 2016 is completely different.
Certainly fighting a covert global war right now. I think that's been going on. That's what the Cold War was, but now we're fighting to such a grander scale with, the hackers and all the cyber crime stuff going on with China, and the banks do it too. With manipulation of currency, and the list goes on and on and on. We see it. What do you think the CIA does every day? Just sits there and twiddles their thumbs. They're fighting a global war. Why don't we have bases in over 100 countries in the world?
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your definition of World War III? Because by some accounts, we could already be in.
Yeah. That's
we probably are on a number of counts. Like you said, in the cyber world, there are attacks all the time going back and forth, country to country. So the cyber war is already in effect. And part of that also you have to include is when countries start cutting off the free flow of information to the civilians, that's when things have gotten bad. And that's happening here, and that's obviously happening in Turkey where they're journalists are being picked off. That's happening in Syria with the same thing. It's happening in Russia. I mean, that part, the phase of the clampdown has already started.
We've seen also the heightening of, I think, what's going into hot war with all the attacks we've seen over the past year. I mean, just the 2 Paris attacks. That's itching for war. San Bernardino could have gone that way real easy, and that's kind of floundering around. We got 2 people, we got 3 people. Oh, they made posts about wanting to be in ISIS. Oh, we don't know what you're talking about. It was workplace violence.
Don't forget about China. the U.S. is still provoking China, or at least making a show of force out there in the islands, the man-made islands that China's constructed. That the U.S. is arguing that it's not necessarily China's property to do that with. I was reading another headline about apparently some got close enough for warning shots, and there's a little bit of I guess egging on by both sides. So who knows? Claire, I know you said you thought it was quite possible we could be in World War III this time next year. That's another front that a lot of us are not thinking about, but we've heard some of the administration say that they're prepared for the U.S. to pivot that way specifically. And I wouldn't be surprised if they used the China as a means to draw some attention away from our failed policies in the Middle East to shine it now towards China in that direction.
Yeah, we don't want to go to war with China, by the way.
No, I don't think so at all.
I don't think anybody wants.
I think China is I think you're absolutely right. I was going to bring up China and the man-made islands because, from what I understand, they're possibly hiding, some of the last huge oil reserves in the world. Which, we love to go to war for oil, so that would make a lot of sense for that to be the spark.
It's there. It's always there potentially, and that it's not covered that much. And they're the United States' biggest holder of U.S. debt. So, you would think surely not that we need this country to do some of our dealings with, but yet we're still, it seems like China is still, it's like you've got one hand of the administration saying one thing, dealing with how we want to interact with China economically in the world. And on the other hand, we've got a military branch that at least views them with skepticism and really kind of potentially going up against the U.S. as far as influence in the world.
So, Kevin, predictions for 2016.
It's going to be hot.
See?
Man, it's weather already. January 1st.
I was in Central Texas for the past week. I experienced floods, snow, 80-degree weather, and tornadoes that killed 11 people. Like, crazy weather.
Nothing to see here.
It's the chemtrails, dog. Did you not notice?
Yeah, it was. Did you see all the chemtrails in the air?
It was cloudy.
Yeah, it
was just a bunch of clouds.
Those weren't clouds.
Yeah, those were chemtrail clouds.
I don't want to get started on that. I don't want to ridicule anybody thinking so, because I don't necessarily.
Yeah, we had thunderstorms and tornado watches up here in Cincinnati too, and normally it's snowing or at least freezing cold and really horrid up here right now, and that was truly bizarre over the holiday.
Very weird.
It really was.
I was in shorts the whole time. I had my windows open.
It was nice, beautiful. Speaking of climate change, the climate change president, Mr. Bernie Sanders.
That guy.
Yeah. So did everybody see his Twitter post? School debt
versus home mortgages
and interest rates.
That was right before or after his comment about there's never been a hotter, a more warm December.
Yeah.
And somebody posted right below him like 6 years where they're like between the 60s and 70s where there were several days where it was hotter.
How does a person that's running for president not know why you get your house interest rates lower than school?
That's got to be something he knew, but he's just going after low.
It's literally collateral. That bank can go, hey, we're going to take your house now.
I honestly, I'm with you on this.
He knows it. And
I don't think the fact that he didn't know it. I think the fact he's banking on the fact that
most people don't.
A lot of the dumb, moderate voters that are the youth vote that's going to flock to him when he's finally pitted up against Trump. Then again, I don't know. The corporate money's been on Hillary the whole time. There's been this strong grassroots movement towards Bernie Sanders. I don't know. This is crazy because I really think Bernie Sanders is going to galvanize the moderate vote. The moderate vote that he's going to be able to capture that Trump doesn't.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that because Bernie actually come out and said,
i.e. minorities.
Bernie came out and said that he's now going to be going after Trump's voters. You see that? Politico had an article about it. Apparently, he thinks he can do basically what Trump is doing, is going for the middle class. But I think you're exactly right in the point that you made a second ago about what he's doing. But he's going towards the low hanging fruit, and that's what they're going to continue to do. He knows. I think he knows. Well, he knows what he's saying. What he's doing. But the younger people, how many of them that are going for Sanders aren't necessarily homeowners? Haven't actually, but they know school debt, and they know that sucks for anybody.
It does.
They're working at Starbucks with a master's degree and owe $100,000. That's who supports Bernie Sanders.
I can't help but be sympathetic for him. I mean, how many people have not had any education at home or been taught, and all they know of what they've been done, at least.
Well, I could go on and on and on and on about the education system.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole different conversation. But, yeah, we'll save that for next year.
We'll bring on Doug in a minute. Yeah.
So, Shannon, we've got just a couple minutes here. Last show for 2015. Take it away.
Predictions. I think more people are going to start homeschooling their children this year. We've already seen a slight upward trend in that. Public education is in a horrible disarray.
Yeah, baby.
If anyone out there is listening that has children that are coming of school age or young children, that they've had some problems with the school systems. We've had a couple callers over the past few months calling about such issues. Take them out. Try to find a way to educate your children yourself, and you can do a much better job in public education.
Oftentimes, you can educate them for a month of tuition is like a new car payment. So if for the parents out there, you say your kids matter most to you, and you're driving a new vehicle, but you can't afford to put them through a private education. If your kids offer, and they mean what you say they do what you can to get them out of the school.
And I'll say this though, a lot of these private schools are doing better than the public schools.
They are. Well, it's economic sense. There's too many kids in classrooms now in subpar education without a profit motive. It makes sense if you have full profit.
Well, they also have a better chance of not getting shot by a gunman too.
Oh, good point.
So.
I don't trust any of it. Claire, get us your end of the year speech.
Come on.
That's it. I want to speak.
We want some words of wisdom. Your final words of wisdom for the year.
Your platform, your soapbox.
I would really, really wish, I will reiterate again, I really wish people would stop being so divisive and just start acknowledging and understanding that we have different perspectives and that they don't really matter. And it doesn't really matter if you totally disagree with your neighbor or whomever. If we can work together on basic issues, we can actually affect change.
Let's love one
Amen.
another.
Amen.
Yeah. That's what's up.
More hate, build a wall.
All lives matter. All lives matter.
Build a wall between the states. That's what I say. And then we'll build a wall between the cities. Yeah. Oh, great. It'll be
I definitely want a wall between us and Mississippi. I'm just saying.
I'm just going to build a wall around my house.
I'm going to build a moat around.
Speaking of Mississippi, geez, those people need to fix their roads.
Alabama's the same way.
No, it is not. It is.
Mississippi.
I don't know how they're not liable for people's cars.
They got lottery money, too, man. Where's all that lottery money?
I'm talking obscene.
That's what I actually had the same situation when I was in Alabama, and they ruled it an act of God. But the reason I say Alabama has an issue because they are in. I heard the name mentioned at the top of a poll about the people they've cost Alabama drivers so much money.
Oh, I didn't say Alabama's roads were good. I said
they're better than Mississippi. I'll take you to task on that because I've driven all up.
Well, I'll take your word.
Yeah, but have you been to Buffalo? Because
I've heard that.
I've been to Buffalo.
Everybody thinks that there's their state, or there's always another state that's worse.
Yeah, but that's because of the weather.
Buffalo does have some nasty, cold, brutal cold weather.
All right, that's it for us for 2015. For Ms. Claire Burnish, Kevin Knight, Shannon Madden, I am SM Gibson. We will see you in 2016 Anti-Media Radio.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Out.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.